Michelle Trachtenberg passed away a few weeks ago, and you said you wish you could have helped her. How special was your bond?
Listen, that little girl was something else.
Oh, I want to see the whole world, and I want to write down everything.
In that movie, Harriet the Spy, she was just epic, and that was a book that meant a lot to me when I was a little girl, and I just loved her. And we reconnected about 3 years ago, and we would talk on the phone, and you know, she was struggling, in a lot of ways, and I just wish that I could have, you know, been there for her more than I was able to.
I think Rosie's a really, really smart lady, and I really love her. She's the nicest person in the world. She's definitely a mother and a friend.
My love is to her sister and her mother, Lana, who I'm friends with and have spoken with, and I miss her, and I love her, and it's a tragic loss, and it pained me greatly.
I also want to ask you about the relationship with Lyle.
Okay, so what do you think about the Menendez brothers? I believe them.
How is he doing right now, and how is your relationship? Do you all talk often?
Yes, we talk about 3 times a week.
Hi, Rosie.
Hello, Lyle. How are you?
Iris and I are doing pretty well.
We exchange texts, you know. They have a tablet that they are able to use to communicate with people, which I think is very life-altering for these men serving life without the possibility of parole. But he's very hopeful, as all of us who support him are, and his family has been working very hard. There's a very good chance that they're going to either be resentenced and or freed based on time served. They've been in there for over 30 years.
I ran around and shot my mom.
Was there a moment, though, Rosie, when you said, Lyle Menendez wants to talk to me? About what?
Well, you know, he had written me a letter, and it was a very detailed letter, and he had thanked me because I believe I was on the Larry King show back in the 90s, and I was talking about the first trial and how it ended in a hung jury, and I believed in what had happened to those 2 boys. And I don't justify murdering your parents no matter what, but I think it does explain what happened. But I never wrote him back, and it was partially because Barbara Walters had said to me, you know, Rosie, he's a manipulator, and, you know, don't do it, he's dangerous. But 4 years ago, I saw a new documentary, and I spoke out on TikTok.
Free the Menendez brothers.
And my phone rang, and it was Rebecca Menendez, Lyle's wife. And she said that he was very moved by what I said, and he remembered writing me, and did I remember? And I said I did. And he called me on Mother's Day about 3.5 years ago, and we became very fast friends.
I had to chuckle when you called him the only straight man you ever loved, though. That was...
It's true.
And of course,
most of my male friends are gay guys, you know, but this was the first sort of straight guy that I was really intimately loved in a way that was safe, and that's what allowed me to do it, because, you know, we were never going to meet. I was never had to be afraid. I never, you know, I knew there were boundaries, and through the boundaries and through that, we were able to connect in a deep and profound way, and I love him very much.
How are things going now that you've moved to Ireland?
I'm here in Ireland, and it's beautiful. Moved here on January 15th.
Ireland is fantastic, Kevin. It really is. I have had the best time. The people are so warm and welcoming. But when I came to Ireland and I look at these people, and they have my body type, they have my big Irish head, they have my, you know, they look like me. I see a little girl walking down the street, and I remember myself at 10. I see an old woman in the grocery store touching the fruit, and I think, had my mother lived, that would be my mother. Had my family not gotten on the boat, my grandparents were from here, and had they not gotten on the boat to America, this would have been my life. So when I knew I had to leave the country after reading Project 2025, I was fearful for my safety and the safety of my non-binary child. I knew I couldn't stay and watch the country be destroyed, and Ireland was the only choice for me.
You're on fire.
Clay's verbal acuity was so off the charts that I knew we were into something different.
This documentary, it's fantastic. It's called Unleashing Hope, the Power of Service Dogs for Children with Autism. It's moving, but it also gives us a look into the life and your family's journey with autism.
Hey, you!
Hey, you.
Why was that something you wanted to document and show to the world?
Well, you know, Clay was diagnosed when she was 2 years old, and she was fully verbal when she was 1. And it was very strange. It really was, Kev, to have this little baby that was just like walking, be able to say, "I would like some more milk, Mama, now, please." Like, you couldn't believe it, you know? It turns out that she has an autism feature called echolalia, which is almost like a tape recorder in your brain, where when you hear something, you can record it and you can recite it back in the accent that you hear it in. So she had that, and that was my first indication that there was possibly autism going on. So when the doctor actually said, "Your kid has autism," I felt like I was punched in the stomach.
Will this take long? Because I have some drawings I need to get to.
But sometimes that pain sends you on a beautiful journey, and that's what we see about this documentary. How important was it about learning and watching Clay learn to love this service dog that made it so special? And also just how proud you are of Clay making this jump.
Well, you know what, Kevin? I was very, very worried about 3.5 years ago. Clay had taken a turn and become very introverted. Became the joyous little child that was so verbal and laughing and happy, had sort of been replaced by a child who had gone into themselves, and I didn't know how to reach them anymore. And I was very, very frustrated. And it was also a time when I was very lonely because my child wouldn't want to leave the house anymore. She wouldn't want to play with friends. She would only want to do her iPad and be in the house with me, but not necessarily interacting with me. So it was a very, very troubling time for me, and I didn't know how to reach her. And that's when Lyle invited me to come hear him speak at his prison. And while at the prison, a man approached me and said, "Do you want to see our dogs?" And I said, "How can you have dogs in a prison?" And they explained to me that the guide dogs were taught how to be guide dogs by men serving life in prison. Lyle was not a part of that program, but he told me about the program. And this man named Russ, who runs Guide Dogs of America, introduced me to the men, and they told me about the groups that they serve. Veterans who had PTSD, people who were blind, and people with children with autism under the age of 12. My child at the time was about 9. And I said, "Well, I have an autistic child. What is it about?" And I went through the process of applying, and our family was approved.
I don't know who was more anxious, me or her.
The training was incredibly intense.
Yes, it was very long hours, 10 days in a row with no days off. We learned over 100 commands. We learned how to handle a service dog. Now, Clay may hold the leash, but the dog will answer to the commands that I learned in those 10 days how to give. What happened was we brought that dog home after those 10 days that were so emotional. I count it as one of the best life experiences I've ever had. And the service, Kevin, is completely free for everyone. This was a very vulnerable thing for me to do, but I really wanted to do it because I needed to give back to this community that had given me so much.
You teased in Just Like That.
Yes.
Will we see you in Just Like That? Is there anything you can tease or tell us?
They wrote a wonderful role for me, just one episode, and I had the greatest time of my acting career, and I hope that everyone enjoys it. I think that they're going to get a lot of laughs out of it.